All right, welcome to this demo of the Screener Surveys feature, where I'm going to run you through how you can select players for your playtest if you have a very specific target audience in mind. Um, so this is a new feature that we've added that gives you complete control over the players that are invited to your playtest. So the first thing you want to do is while you're ordering your playtest, in this section you see after specifying your target audience, you can select to add a screener. And the first choice you have to make after that is whether you want the invites to go out automatically or manually. In the case of an automatic invite, players that answer your screener and clear it correctly will be invited to the playtest. Whereas in manual invites, you get to see all the responses to your screener and then manually select the players that should be added to your playtest. Now, how do you set up the criteria for who should and shouldn't be invited to your playtest, or rather, who do you consider has answered the screener correctly and who hasn't? So to set up the criteria, there are two questions that you can use for that, and this is fairly standard industry practice. So you can choose to have a multiple choice question where the player gets to select one option. So this could be any single choice question. Do you play X game? And it could be a yes/no answer. Um, And you can choose to have an accept reject criteria here. So in this case, you have a yes for accept and reject for no. If you want to throw in a couple of filler options, you can do that as well. You can have a maybe in there. And then you have the choice on whether you want to keep that player in the screener or kick them out. So again, you can choose to accept or reject. So these are the options when the question has only one choice as an answer. If you have a checkbox question where the player can choose multiple options, then you have a slightly different match criteria for that. So you can select three options here. You have must select, may select, or reject. The reject is fairly straightforward. If they select that, you want to reject them. The may select is an option you kind of want to use for filler options where you're like, I don't honestly mind if the player has selected this option or not. And the must select is where the player has to select that option if they want to be considered as having correctly answered this question. So you have those two question types to choose from. You also have the option of adding free text questions or rating questions. But of course, the rating questions and free text questions don't have any criteria attached to them. But we like to use that, and it's highly recommend that you use that to validate some of the answers. So in case you've asked about whether you play a game or not, you want to ask the player to describe the game a little bit. And then you will see those answers in either the screener panel page where you can select, if you've selected manual invites, where you can see who's answered what, you can see their free text answers and then choose players based on that. Or in the automatic invite section, once the video is published, in the player tab, you will be able to see their screener answers. So you have a little more information on who the player is, the kind of, and whether their answers make sense for you or if their playtest is perfect for you. All right. All right. So once you've done this, let's say you've added a question here, which is shows many options. You've added a single choice question. Like I said, you could also add uh, free text or rating questions. Once you've done that and you've placed your order, what you will see is on your playtest page, where you can see the entire playtest, you will see a blurb like this where you can see how many players have answered your screener, how many have matched, which means they selected all the must select options and no reject options. So they didn't mess up in any of the questions, and how many of them were invited to the playtest. Now, in this example, I selected manual invites. So I have to manually invite the players for the playtest to start. Just to reiterate, if it was automatic invites, the players would be automatically invited. So these three would have automatically been invited to the playtest. But since it's manual, I have to go and manually do it myself. If you click on this link, it will take you to the next page. On the left-hand side, you get to see all the players who've answered your screener. You can see their name, age, location, and their gender as well. And you can also see their match criteria. So 100% means they selected all the must select options, none of the reject options, and that's 100%. For example, Katina, and you can see that on the right, she got one question incorrect. So that's one. There were three questions which had match criteria here. So she gets a 67% match, right? So what you can do here is you can go through each player and their answers on the right-hand side. And if you want to dig a little deeper, you can also look at their profile. You can see, okay, who's this player, the device they have, what other games do they like? And if you like the player, you can choose to shortlist them. Once you shortlist the player and you're happy with this list, right? So one thing actually, before I go ahead, I should point out is we want you to over recruit. You know, players have their own lives, they're busy, they may or may not see our invite. So ideally, we suggest a number of players you should be inviting at the minimum. For this playtest, I had ordered 5 participations, and the system recommends that we invite a minimum of 8 players. So let's say you've reached the point where you've got your 8 players, and you're happy with that. You just click invite all shortlisted players, hit invite all shortlisted players. And the quick thing to note here is that once a player is invited, they can't be uninvited. So you want to be careful of that. Make sure you are sure of the player before you invite them. All right. So you have the choice to invite players one at a time or all together. That's completely up to you. And once you start inviting players, then the playtest actually starts, and you will start getting your videos in no time. That's it. That's how you can invite players and manually select them. Go through the answers, see if you like, and see if you like any players, and then invite them to the playtest. Right, that is it. I hope you enjoy the feature, and if you have any feedback, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.